Hello everyone, this is Shannon from That's So Po, and today I'm doing week 8 of my 2024 reads. This week I picked up a bunch of different things. Some of them I quite enjoyed and a bunch of them I DNF'd. I also have a mini update about my plans for March at the end of the video. Timestamps and content warnings are in the description box below. First, I finished Lady Tan's Circle of Women by Lisa C. This is a historical fiction set in the 15th or 16th century in China that follows a woman kind of from her girlhood through her adulthood as she just goes through her life. She's a noblewoman, gets married, all these sorts of things, but also becomes a doctor. She's sort of part of a hereditary line of doctors, and her grandmother trains her in this, even though at this time that's not really a thing that's done. So it's a little unusual, but this is based on the life of a real woman who wrote a book about medicine that was very influential. So it's really cool how this is based in historical fact. The setting in this is so vivid. I love historical fiction where you really feel the history and you feel the setting and you get to live in it, and this does this so amazingly. I was really drawn into this. The writing is so engaging and it is just so full of that time period, but everybody feels, really, it feels very lived in. So yeah, I loved the historical setting of this and the writing was just so good. But I should have expected, because this is about a doctor, there's a lot of stuff in here that was really quite gross. I have such a low tolerance when it comes to things like body horror or just graphic descriptions, and this definitely pushed my limit a bit. Also, there's quite a lot of drama in this. So this really is a historical drama, and the drama parts were maybe a bit too much for me, but even so, the history itself and the vividness of the setting and just how engaging the writing is made this still such an enjoyable read, so I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I read The Sitcom Star by Jackie Lau, which is a new romance novella in a series that she is just starting, set in Canada. And the series is going to be following, I believe, all of these characters who are part of a sitcom. And this sitcom is just featuring a bunch of Asian Canadian characters played by Asian Canadian actors. And this first one is taking a look at the writer and star of the show. And she's somebody who's extremely hardworking, so driven, has all of this vision, but she's burning herself out. And she kind of is told by, her friend, who's also kind of her showrunner, saying, hey, you need to take a little bit of a break before we start filming the next season, or else you're going to totally burn out. So she's trying, but she does not know how, until she runs into a very laid-back, easygoing guy that she used to know in middle school, and they kind of hit it off, and she gets him to help her figure out, how do I relax? How do I just enjoy life? And it is so sweet and gentle. The hero in this is just such a cinnamon roll, very laid back. He's the sort of person who's smart but doesn't really have big ambitions in life. He just kind of wants to enjoy life and, has his job on the side. But he so admires her and really respects her. It's such a sweet dynamic. I think that this story was maybe a little bit on the slow side, but even so, it was just so gentle and so sweet. I'm really excited that there's going to be more books in this series. I gave this novella 4.5 stars, and I can't wait to continue in the series more. Then I did DNF quite a few books this week, starting with The Bright Ages by Matthew Gabriele, Daniel M. Perry, and narrated by Jim Meskimen. So this is a book that I had been interested in picking up for a while because it's about the Middle Ages in Europe and reframes it as the Bright Ages rather than the Dark Ages. I started listening to this on audiobook in the car with Sush when we were going on a trip, and it kind of put us to sleep. So even though I think the topic is really interesting, this kind of got a little heavy on the info dumping and just listing things that happened rather than doing the more deep dive into a particular person's experience, that sort of thing. So it ended up being a little bit dull, but I think that the topic is really interesting, and also the lens that the authors take in approaching this is very interesting. Just kind of trying to understand what was going on in this time and not seeing it as there was the Roman Empire and then the Dark Ages, and then the Renaissance, but seeing like, no, it's much more of a continuum, and what was going on, and what was, you know, what was still thriving, what was the beauty of art, and all these other things that are happening during this time. So I liked that lens. I also like the lens of them talking about, you know, what narratives do we build about the medieval period, and how do we use that to justify what we do in modern day? So I thought that there were some really cool things about this, but it was just a little bit too dull. We got through 10% of this, and then we realized we had to switch to something else because we needed something to keep us awake while we were driving. And this was not a long drive, but it was just, it just was too much detail, I think, for me. And maybe this would be better just reading, where you could skim over some of the parts that are just listing the different battles and things that were happening. But yeah, it just didn't quite work out for me. Then I also DNF'd The Pale House Devil by Richard Kadrey. This is a horror novella that I'd heard about from Olivia-Savannah at Olivia's Catastrophe, who I will link below. And I don't usually pick up horror, but the way that she described this made it sound really cool, kind of like a buddy cop type of feel, and a little bit of detective interest, just some mystery going on. And that is all true about this series. It has two main heroes who are kind of, I guess they're kind of assassins actually. They're not really detectives, but it has a detective noir feel to it. And one of them is living and one of them is undead, and they kind of pair together. So it's got a really interesting premise. There's a lot of magic in this, like a lot of different types of magic. The magic in this is very, very cool actually, because it's a very real world feeling thing with that detective noir type of tone. But then there's just lots of magic that's kind of worked in, so like voodoo and witchcraft and things like that. But it is a horror novella, and I got to 56%, and then there had been quite a few scenes that were a little bit too violent or a little bit too graphic for me, and then there was one scene that was just way too graphic for me. And I was like, you know what, we're at 56%. It's gonna get worse from here. So I was like, I have to stop this. So I thought this was actually pretty engaging. But I think you need to like horror in order to pick this up and be okay with the graphic stuff, which I'm trying to, you know, be a little bit more open to these things, but it's just very hard for me when there's graphic stuff on the page. So I had to DNF it. And then I did DNF one more book, The Cowboy Whisperer by Sabrina Soul. This is the second book in the Rancho Lindo series. And I actually had tried the first book in the series and DNF'd it earlier. But my friend Cynthia at BookWhimsy, who I will link below, did a review of this second book, which I will also link below, and she said I should give it a try anyway. The first book I had DNF'd because there was some family drama in that I just really was not on board with. I didn't like how the family was treating the hero at all, and I just couldn't handle it. And in the second book, there isn't that drama, so there isn't the family drama. However, there is still drama. So this book I really wanted to give a shot. I think that the writing is actually very engaging. I got very drawn into the story as I was reading. But there is still quite a bit of drama, and drama in places where I just feel like it didn't need to be there. Or at least it was too much for me. Plus, I think that the characters in this I wasn't really bought into. They kind of have a rough start where they're really antagonistic towards each other. It's about the hero is basically the son of, I mean, he's one of the set of brothers at Rancho Lindo, which is in Southern California. And they have a family ranch, and he handles the stables. And the heroine in this is somebody who's training to be an equestrian jumper, I think, for the Olympics. But she's had some accidents in the past, has some trauma, that sort of thing. And she needs a place out of the way to train and just have privacy. And so they come into contact. She's very much takes things for granted, kind of a little bit of a princess type, and they clash a bit. And that antagonism to lovers' journey, I didn't quite buy into it. So I got pretty far into this book. I actually got to 90%, and then I just realized I didn't want to keep going. There was something like 25 pages left in the book, and I was like, you know, I could keep going, but I just don't want to. I'm kind of disinvested. There's drama that's just starting to happen right now, and I don't really want to be involved in that. I don't want to see how it falls out. So yeah, it was just one of those things where I think that the writing was pretty engaging. I think that the setting is really interesting. but the romance wasn't quite for me, and the drama that just keeps happening. There were lots of little pieces of drama, and then there were just more and more as we went further in the book. It just wasn't for me, so I DNF'd this one as well. Okay, so in addition to all of the books that I read and DNF this week, I just wanted to talk to you guys and give you a little bit of a mini update about my plans for March. So things have been really busy in life, and I'm just feeling a bit tired. I think that that's showing in my reading and that I am DNFing a lot, like I just don't have patience for things. And I'm also just struggling to want to pick up very much right now. Like I kind of just want to have easy comfort reads, and I'm not interested in much else. And even just sitting down to film is a little bit hard right now. So I'm gonna take a little bit of a break, give myself March off, and come back in April, maybe beginning or mid-April, wrap up what I've been reading and kind of continue. But I just want a little bit of a break because I'm feeling kind of tired. I have a strong suspicion I'm going to just return all of my library books right now and just do a clean slate and read whatever I'm in the mood for, which is probably mainly comfort rereads. But you know, hey, maybe some new romances as well in there, we'll see. But it's not gonna be like terribly interesting reading. I have a feeling for the next month anyway. So anyway, I'm gonna just take a little bit of a break and then I'll come back and chat with you guys about what I've been reading. I hope that you guys are having a good spring. Here the flowers are starting to bloom. The sakura are just coming out. It's so beautiful. So I'm excited about that. And if you guys have read any of the books that I talked about today, even if I DNF them, maybe they work for you. If you're interested in them, or if you want to tell me what you've been reading, I'd love to hear from you. Just leave me a comment down below.